Explore how to add two negative numbers. So let's see what this is going to ask us to do. Use a calculator to find each sum of two negative numbers. So we're given three different problems. And then once we do that, we're going to be asked to find patterns. So as we do these, let's be thinking about the patterns that we notice. And then given those patterns, they're going to ask us without the calculator to find the sum of -8 plus -7. And then to use the calculator to check our work. And then we're going to see if we can come up with a general rule for how to add two negative numbers. So let's pull our calculator up to help us here. So something that's going to be important when we're using our calculator is to be aware that our calculator has two different buttons for the two different purposes of what we think about as the minus sign. Now over here is the minus, over on the far right. So here's division, multiplication, subtraction, and addition. So subtraction, when we're seeing the minus sign for subtraction, that's going to be over here. But when that same symbol is used as the negative sign on a negative number, that sign is down here. And we have to be careful not to get these mixed up. If we use the wrong button at the wrong time, our calculator will be very confused and it won't know what we're asking it to do. So here's the negative and here's the subtract. So keep those two things clear in your brain. So let's do our first problem, -5 plus -3. So we're going to do -5, and to that we're going to add, so we're going to say plus, and then again back to the negative sign, -3. If we enter that, we see that we have an answer of -8. So let me go ahead and write in the -8 here for this one. -8. And now let's do the next problem, -7 plus -4. So I'll clear this out. We're going to do -7 plus, now the last time I didn't put in the parentheses, let's see what happens when we put the parentheses in, plus parenthesis -4. What's true in this situation, when I'm writing this out this way, those parentheses are in place just to keep the plus and this negative sign separated from each other, so we can see we're doing plus a -4. If I just write plus -4 without those parentheses, it might be hard to tell, am I adding, am I subtracting, what's going on? But my calculator will work the problem for me whether I use the parentheses or not. So our answer for this one is -11. So let's go ahead and write that in here, -11. Now are we seeing any patterns yet? So -5 plus -3 was -8. -7 plus -4 is -11. Well, I'm seeing some patterns, but let's do the last one and then see what we've got. Okay, so our last one, -1 plus a -2. And this time I'm not going to use parentheses. And we end up with -3. Okay. So what do we notice here? Well, think about if those negatives weren't there. If it was just 5 plus 3, it would be 8. But -5 plus -3 is -8. So it looks like we're just adding the numbers and keeping the sign. Does that still work? If I just take 7 plus 4, that would be 11. -7 plus -4 is -11. Okay, what about the last one? -1 plus -2. Well, 1 plus 2 is 3. -1 plus -2 is -3. So if we follow that reasoning without using a calculator, find the sum. So remember what we thought. If we take these and add them as if they were just plain old whole numbers, 8 plus 7 would be 15, but because they're negative, we think the answer should be negative. Let's check that with our calculator. Let me move this over here and clear out our last problem. So we have -8 plus -7 equals, sure enough, that's -15. So when we think about a general rule for how to add two negative numbers, what do we want to do? Well, we just want to add the numbers as if they were whole numbers, as if they were just positive whole numbers, and then the negative sign is still going to come along. So think of a way that you can state that for yourself to help you keep track of that rule for adding signed or these negative numbers.